The last couple of months, we've tried to stay away from the media because bigger attempts to meet in the past that started the so-called mega summit movement, which became the Social Democratic Mega Party. Because I was never going to move from any party, from a party that I was in. But the idea was that this mega summit movement, which even now started, we were all going to come to it. And when it started, you had General Buhari, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Bafarawa, and everybody. Anyway, as a little bit of history, at some point it began to fracture. But in the last 6 to 8 weeks, there have actually been a series of meetings, I can say that publicly, in which General Buhari was present, Malam Nuhu Ribadu was present, I was present, and Alhaji Shekarau was present. And we have had several of these meetings, and the process is not terminated, but I'm not as optimistic as I was 2 weeks ago, for example, in the process. And I want to talk majorly about things like that and Nigerian history, because you see, we have not allowed history to be written properly. In fact, there's been an anti-history thing in our country. A lot of young people don't even know the history of our country.
Thanks to foreign books.
Yeah, and I want to ensure that this just doesn't go away like that, that history is properly putting in context when everybody is still alive and can deal with the issues. So I will have this major statement. I also address the state of the nation, because one of the things that I found from traveling around is people don't realize how much I travel around. I mean, as I leave the studio, I'm dashing to get on an aeroplane to go somewhere. Of course, the media is very limited. The media is sold on this Ashwebi democracy of I was walking the streets of Enugu a couple of days ago, talking with young people, town hall meetings, and I've been left, with a real big hole in my heart for this country in terms of where it is today. And I want to talk about those kinds of things, about what can happen to save a country that is this far down in the way things have evolved. And that's what the 30th is about. So, let's wait for the statement.
Last week, Chief Mamadou also mentioned the media, and the role in which they're playing, and how yes, they've had their good sides, but they've played a big role in, segmenting the presidential aspirants, and saying, oh, this is the person, this is not the person.
Well, it's a number of things. You have to consider a number of factors. There's the poor training of many people in journalism, and I can talk about that. I'm a journalism teacher. I know many are very poorly trained. They don't have enough understanding of what's going on to truly do what is needful for their country. So they fall into this pattern of Ashwebi democracy. That's one. Second, I see even the analysts on television, even on channels I watch, who are supposed to be university lecturers, make unintelligent comments following the same thing. And you would think that people would say, wait a minute, what's the problem with our country? How can we save our country? What are the possibilities that can get there? How should we stimulate those things happening? Instead, you get this. So people want to be with the so-called stream of flow. And then there is the problem of corruption. We have a fundamentally corrupted society, let's be very frank. And those who have access to the government treasury are corrupting every aspect of our society, including media, including everything. And the structure of media in the country is a very poor one. Media is not the best funded part of our economy. And so it's more easily vulnerable to those kinds of things. So you'll expect to see some of what you see.
Right. Okay. On the election dates, your picture is going to be there with your party as long as other candidates. No matter the structural failings that we find in the way the politics is constructed at the election. So I'll ask you two questions, sir. One, why should we vote for you? Come that day, because you have presented yourself as a candidate, and so you're presenting yourself, to get votes. Secondly, what do you think of the incumbent? Because I remember that 2 years ago, I was fortunate, along with some of my colleagues, to visit then Vice President Goodluck Jonathan, And I do remember that after the meeting, he was aware that we had worked with, the organization was affiliated to you, that organization, and he was looking for where's Professor Utomi. I thought Professor Utomi was here, and so obviously I saw that this was a man who had a lot of respect for you, and some kind of being that you're from the south, some kind of goodwill between the two of you. Now, looking at the way that he has managed the economy, the politics in the past year, and the fact that many commentators have said that he has lost a large amount of the goodwill that he came into office with, and a large amount of the trust that people, this is what some critics say. What could you say about his administration over the past 1 year?
Okay. Well, first let me talk about why you should vote for me. I have a very clear vision of a new Nigeria. And that vision flows from a burden that comes from my entire adult life. And that is a burden with poverty. And people can come and say things, but with me now, there's a track record. You can go and look at. I'm one who's been in several arenas, so to speak: civil society, politics, business, and so on. You take each of these. Take me as an academic, and you look at the heart of the research I've done in the last 25 years. It's been about how can we overcome poverty. I've in fact written a book titled Why Nations Are Poor, trying to show people how we can stop being poor. So as an academic, so if that's theory, let's move to practice. My role in civil society, many years ago, 20-something years ago, looking at the experience of some widows, I decided to start a program called the Widow Support Center Program. How do you empower the poorest of the poor women to escape poverty? That program continues to run till date. In fact, just this week, there was a workshop training the women on some skills, working with Optimist International in Surulere and all of that. So a commitment at a practical level with certain groups of the poor. I have had that commitment in the work I've done in a dozen or more civil society organizations that I'm involved with. But that central question about how do you eliminate poverty, especially the paradox of poverty in plenty in a country like Nigeria. So it's been so central to my whole adult life that my vision of a new Nigeria is focused on how to create a middle class society in which you eliminate majorly the poverty question. And I have a clear sense for how you do that, beginning with the short term, the immediate, the medium term, and the long term. The short term, something that will happen day one, get started, is one of the easiest way to put 2, 3, 4, 5 million people to work almost immediately is through infrastructure projects. You decide now you want to do a standard gauge railway from Lagos to Calabar, Lagos, Abuja, Kano, 8-lane highway, a coastal highway that will open the entire coastal belt to tourism development and all of that. So where are you going to get the money? Question. Now, you don't need to get the money. Why don't you need to get the money? Because private capital can do this. But if you go to most of Southeast Asia, where I've done a good part of my research, most of all that sprawling infrastructure that is unfolding is private capital. So-called build, operate, and transfer kind of programs. But if you ask them to come to Nigeria, they won't come because Nigeria is the uncertainty is too high. So what do you do? Years ago, I spoke to Chukwu Masuludo on a flight. I said, look, you guys have $60-something billion in the foreign reserves. I'm going to take 20 billion, put in Fortis Bank or some bank in Europe, and say, look, this is to give confidence to anybody who wants to come and use his own capital to develop infrastructure in Nigeria. If we behave badly, you go to arbitration. If they rule against us, that money is there, and you will bring in. So you can then say, want to do this, okay, the share of the company will buy 10% of that company as our own investment, and we need this 10-lane highway, private capital. So all the corruption that has prevented one single interstate highway from being completed in Nigeria since 1999, not one has been completed. The corruption, not beyond corruption, the collapse of bureaucracy. Our bureaucracy does not have human capital, let's be honest. So they really can't, even if they were not corrupt. So you will overcome all of those, provide millions of jobs immediately through this infrastructure that then opens up the country for the activity. Then we break the country up into 6 zones. And in each zone, you will take a particular factor endowment. What do they have in that zone, northwest? What do they have in the southwest that you can become globally competitive in? And you develop that global value chain. And you will see that we can build 6 Dubais in Nigeria, in the 6 zones of Nigeria. Now, I think that these things are so simple to me that I can't understand why they would not done it. You know, I don't understand it. Now, let's come to our friend the president. Well, as you remarked, I know some of the sacrifices some of us made when they were playing games with him to ensure that he became substantive head of our country's government. I had the privilege of meeting him many times during that period, at least a few times. I have a lot of goodwill for him and towards him. I've been obviously pained that a game plan, because we sat down, it's not just that talk, because I walk my talk. We sat down. I spent Easter weekend last year camped with some people to develop a game plan of 1 year that if he implemented faithfully, history will hold him up in gold. But the triumph of politics. You see, we don't have to be geniuses to make our country work. If we found the best and brightest of our country and we brought them together and we say, let's build a great nation, it will be built. I just find difficulty understanding why this is so difficult to do. I watch my country dying and I keep asking myself, why can the elite in this country not realize that they're dealing with a dying country and say, go, let's pull everybody across all divides, please let's come together, our country is dying. Why should we allow our children to remember us with such sadness? Let's work together to change it. And that's what the challenge is for me.
Right. It's been rubbing minds on channels, television. This Sunday afternoon, I will be talking to Professor Utomi, presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Mega Party, and it's been a pleasure, sir. I know you have a flight. I have so many other questions, but I'm thinking that, after even the election season is over, if you're president, if you're not, I'm going to hunt you down to continue some of those. Some of those questions I want to have, but thank you very much. When you're speaking with you always, I always, come up thinking, these are serious-minded times, and they call for serious-minded people, And
we're honored to be in your
hear a lot of generalization. To just hear it serious-mindedly broken down, is a challenge for me even as a person. It's okay, sometimes, even I talk in these general terms, sometimes, get the knowledge also to back it up so that, thank you so much for coming.
Great pleasure.
I wish you the best, honestly, in this campaign as we go.
I keep saying it's not about me.
Yes,
it's not about me. It doesn't matter to me whether I'm president or not. It really will make a difference to my life.
True. Thank you, sir.
It's a pleasure.
In case you're just joining us, I hope you're not just joining us. We're talking to Professor Utomi. You know him as, a media entrepreneur, industrialist, businessman, thinker, lecturer, and a man who dwells in research. And we'll be talking to him about the challenges of our nation and why he wants to be president of Nigeria. After the break,